And even on 7th of August, after Dr. Goh and Mr. Barker had settled the agreement with Tun Razak, Mr. Lee saw the Tunku again to ask if they could have a looser federation instead, perhaps even a confederation. It was the Tunku who said flatly that it was over. I remember sleeping that night on the 7th of August on the floor in the corner of my parents' bedroom at Temasek House in Kuala Lumpur before the family drove back to Singapore the next day. My father got up repeatedly throughout the night to write notes to himself. And this explains Mr. Lee's state of mind at separation and why at the press conference on the 9th of August he broke down and spoke about a moment of anguish. My mother said in her oral history that that was the closest he came to a nervous breakdown. Decades later, when Mr. Lee was preparing his memoirs, he obtained Dr. Goh's permission to read his oral history. It was only then that Mr. Lee discovered that, contrary to his instructions, Dr. Goh had, from the start, gone for a clean break and never tried for the looser federation which Mr. Lee preferred and had instructed him to try for. Mr. Lee was so astonished that he made a note of the exact time, date, and place where he first learned this. In the margin of the transcript of Dr. Goh's oral history, next to the passage where Dr. Goh confirmed that it was he and not Razak who had suggested separation, Mr. Lee wrote, "First time read on the 22nd of August, 94, 5:40 p.m. in the office." Mr. Lee had been trained as a lawyer. Mr. Lee told some of the ministers about this and his great surprise at what had really happened. He also spoke to me about it. You can see this page with Mr. Lee's marginal note in the exhibition. In 1977, when the Tunku sent Mr. Lee a copy of his memoirs looking back, he inscribed on the flyleaf to Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, the friend who had worked so hard to found Malaysia and even harder to break it up. The first half of the sentence was true enough. Mr. Lee had indeed worked hard to achieve merger with Malaysia. But the second half was incorrect. Rather than a break with Malaysia, Mr. Lee's aim was a more secure and workable constitutional arrangement for Singapore within Malaysia. Mr. Lee felt torn. On the one hand, he felt deeply his responsibility to the Singaporeans whom he had persuaded to merge with Malaysia. On the other hand, he felt keenly his obligation to all those in the rest of the Federation, whom he and the Malaysian Solidarity Convention had mobilized to fight for Malaysian Malaysia. It weighed heavily on him that he was abandoning and letting down the millions left behind when Singapore separated. On his part, Dr. Goh was convinced that merger was doomed and that the Malaysian leaders themselves wanted us out. Hence, when he negotiated with Razak, he pressed for total separation, assuring Razak that Mr. Lee would be amenable to the idea. Thankfully, the stars were aligned. Within a few years of separation, all our founding leaders, especially Mr. Lee and even those like Mr. Rajaratnam, Dr. Toh, and Mr. Ong, who had signed the separation agreement most reluctantly, concluded that separation was the best thing that ever happened to Singapore. In this SG 60 years, we are very glad that Dr. Goh did what he did. Singapore has thrived and progressed far beyond anything the Founding Fathers imagined. But it was far from inevitable that events would turn out this way. In all likelihood, had separation not been achieved on the 9th of August, sooner or later the breakup would somehow have occurred, but most probably not as peacefully. The contradictions between the two societies were so profound that they could not have been resolved without a parting of ways.